Hello, my beloved students. Hope you are all fine. Enjoyed the festival a lot, isn't it? Of course, there were some restrictions, but I'm sure you have enjoyed the festival. Now we are back again, and of course, you are preparing for your exam. Whatever the situation is, we must continue with our activities. All of you know that we have to do it. And accordingly, we shall be discussing today our political and social life. That is, the title of the chapter is Why Do We Need a Parliament? That is the chapter's title. Before just jumping into the main section of the discussion, we shall find out some other means here. It is that around the world, various types of government are found. Various types of functioning administrative systems are going on. Say, for example, if we consider parliamentary form of government or presidential form of government or unitary government or federal government, various types of governments are found around the country. If we take the example, say for our country India, we are having parliamentary form of government. Now if you look into the matter of USA, the administrative system that is followed in USA, it is presidential form of government. Now if we go for the other two types, we are talking about the parliamentary form and the presidential form. On the other hand, there are some other types of administration is running around the world. It is called unitary form of government and federal form of government. Now the question is, why we are discussing about these matters? Yes, these are important. We have to know what type of administrative system are running around the world. Then only it will be easier for us that why there is parliamentary system in our country. If we take, for example, our country, India, that why this parliamentary system is opted here, and why in USA there is presidential form, or the other two types as I am talking about, the unitary system or federal system. Again we can say in India there is federal system of government is found. A government where there is more than one level of government, a system of governance where there is more than one level. Say for example, there is central government, the state governments, local governments. In local government there are again classifications. In rural areas, Panchayati Raj system. In urban areas, municipal corporation, municipality, Nagar Panchayat, these systems are there. So various levels are there, and that makes it a federal system of governance. Whereas in unitary system, there is only one level of government, that is the central government. There may be other smaller units, smaller administrative bodies, but they are not autonomous. They are not having independent powers. So those type of governance is called the unitary form of government. And as we discussing about the main two forms, that is parliamentary form and presidential form. So India has adopted parliamentary form for various reasons. The first one we are talking about, that it is called more democratic. Our nation builders were influenced by the colonial rulers. We know that colonial rulers, the Britishers ruled over here around 200 years. So there is an impact, of course. The country which was under ruled by a foreign ruler for a long period of time, of course there will be an influence, an impact of that. And in England there is parliamentary form of government. So accordingly in our country also the parliamentary form is adopted. Now the nation builders considered that it is more democratic. You see, in the parliamentary system, what happens? The country is divided into various political constituencies, various electoral constituencies it is divided. Political divisions, these are the constituencies are nothing but the political divisions. And from each part, one representative who belongs to a particular political party is being chosen by the majority vote. So that way, our nation builders considered that let us choose this system which is more convenient, more democratic. That's why parliamentary form is adopted. Actually, there is an impact of freedom struggle. the long and difficult freedom struggle inspired the people to participate directly, wholeheartedly in the administrative matters. And our leaders were confident enough about the people of our country that yes, the people can choose their representative wisely, independently. That's why again the parliamentary form is opted. The ideas of equality, the sense of equality becomes more solid here. That is the concept that when by means of universal adult franchise the representatives are chosen, that is considered as more democratic and the system of equality is being maintained here. The participation in decision making is also an important part here. Actually, long back in 1885, Indian National Congress demanded for the participation of more Indians in the administrative system. There was demand for a long period of time. There was demand by the Indian National Congress. In history, of course, we have studied this one. That in the first phase of the functioning of Indian National Congress, they have demanded, they continued many prayers and petitions to include more Indians in the administrative system. And few of them were accepted in the British Parliament, and there are certain reforms, a few reforms were made in the Indian administrative system. So, long back in 1885, Indian National Congress demanded for participation of more Indians over there, because it is this is the only way to run the administration here, because the problem of the Indians will be known better by the Indians. So, the representative, the Indian representative can put forward their demands, can say what are the shortcomings in their places, in their regions. So, accordingly the administration will run better. That was the concept behind. So, the British government accepted this demand, and in 1909 in the Government of India Act, certain policies were changed and few representatives were taken from India origin. So, that was the concept behind. So, we have found various reasons why India has adopted the parliamentary form of government. Now, let us find out about the people and their representatives. How people and their representatives are chosen and how this is continued here. Okay, we shall find out the people and their representatives. Actually, this form, the parliamentary form, is an important form of the governance. People and their representative we shall discuss now. The first thing is that, as we are discussing, there will be division of electoral constituencies. Division of electoral constituencies. Division of electoral constituencies. What are these electoral constituencies? The whole country is divided into certain parts. Say for example, our country is divided into 543 divisions. For Lok Sabha election, we call it also general election. Okay? What we call the parliamentary election, actually we mean the Lok Sabha election, which is also called the general election. For that purpose, our country is divided into 543 electoral constituencies. Now see, we have to be very clear about these divisions, the electoral divisions, the political electoral constituencies. Why? Whenever there is assembly election, say for example, if we take the example of our state Tripura, there are 60 constituencies for assembly election. For legislative assembly election, our state is divided into 60 constituencies. And all the political parties send their representative to contest in the election against each constituency. Now, among those members, among those representatives, one member will be chosen by means of majority vote, by the means of universal adult franchise, all the adult people cast vote, and one member, one representative is chosen by the people by means of majority vote, and accordingly they are called MLAs. So, for our state, the 60 MLAs are being chosen in the assembly election. So we must remember that these electoral constituencies are different for different elections. For assembly election, for example, we are talking about here that for assembly election our state is divided into 60 constituencies, whereas for the parliamentary election, for the Lok Sabha election, there are only 2 constituencies in our state, the East Tripura constituency and the West Tripura constituency. So on the basis of population ratio, these divisions are made. So these electoral constituencies are made so that the election can be conducted smoothly. The proper representation, the distribution of population is done in proper manner through these electoral constituencies, so that the representative can be chosen in proper manner. The ratio could be maintained over there. That's why these electoral constituencies are made. That is the first thing. The second is that important responsibility is preparation of the voters list. Preparation of the voters list. All of you know that the impartial body, that is the Election Commission of India, is involved here for conducting the smooth and transparent election. And for that, the first thing is that dividing the country into political constituencies or electoral constituencies, whatever you can call. Then another important job is making the voters list, or it is also called electoral roll, where the names of all the adult people are included. Whoever becomes 18 years, a boy or a girl, his name will be included in the voters list or in the electoral roll. He will be provided one epic, means photo identity card for the election purpose. With that epic only the person can cast vote. Then the conduction of election. The Election Commission announces a particular date for conducting the election. Huge number of employees are being engaged for conducting the election, and many police personnel are also engaged for maintaining security, for maintaining law and order. The elections are being held, then the counting of votes and selection of the representatives. So it's a huge task which is actually monitored by the Election Commission of India. In Election Commission of India there are limited number of members, but they engage huge number of people for this grand activity. So first task is to divide the country into political or electoral constituencies. These are just political divisions of the country, you have to remember. Then preparation of the voters list. Whoever will cast vote, his or her name must be there in the electoral roll or voters list. A particular number, ward number, constituency number, everything is mentioned over there. The photo is there, the voters photo is also there in the voters list. So that way it is made more authentic. Then after election, the majority party forms the government. Majority party, the political party which gets the majority number of seats in the country, will form the government. President will call the leader of the majority party to form the government, to run the administration. So that is the system. So majority party, of course, the political party which has got the majority number of seats in the country, they are considered as the majority party, and they will form the government for running the administration. Then of course, the other elected members who are next to the majority parties, the second biggest political party is considered as the opposition party. Opposition party. The second biggest political party which has got the majority number of seats, then the means less than the majority party. Okay, the party which has got the maximum number of seats, of course they will form the government. Next to them, the political party which has got the next of the majority party's number of seats, of course they will be considered as the opposition party. Here we have to remember one thing, the role of opposition party is very important in the parliament, because they find out the loopholes, they find out the shortcomings of the governmental activities, they keep on questioning on various issues, and accordingly the problem is solved. Okay, so opposition party's role, a stronger opposition party makes the democracy more transparent, okay, more vibrant. So that is the role of the opposition party. We must remember that the representatives from various political constituencies are either called MLAs or MPs. Who are the MLAs? Member of the legislative assemblies. As we said, for our state, when 60 MLAs are being elected in the assembly election, and those who are elected for the in the Lok Sabha election, they are considered as MPs, member of the parliament. Actually, they are considered, they are the members of the Lok Sabha. They are the members of the parliament, but actually they are the members of Lok Sabha, because the other house, that is the upper house of the parliament, which is also called Rajya Sabha, okay, doesn't conduct the election directly. There is no direct election for the Rajya Sabha members. Okay, indirect election is held for Rajya Sabha members. We shall see in our later part of the discussion. Okay, so accordingly, the leader of the majority party is considered as the prime minister, and the leader of the majority party is called by the president to form the government, and the other important elected MPs are given their portfolios. Portfolios means the departments. They get various departments to handle with, say for example, health department or education department or other many departments are there. Okay, so those are being handled by other ministers. So prime minister and the other ministers, they form the government and they run the administration. So these are the people and their representatives. Okay, now we shall find out the composition of the Indian Parliament. This is very, very important. Okay, this one can be a broad question for you. Before that, one short question. Sometimes few students I have found to fail this answer, fails to answer this question, that when I asked which is the central legislature of India, of course the answer is the Parliament, isn't it? Because you see, the government has got three main organs. All of you know, you are studying from lower class onwards. The government has got main three organs, that is the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. Today we are discussing about the Parliament. So which organ is this one? This is the legislative body, the first organ of the government, a democratic government. So every democratic government has got major three organs, that is the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. So the question is, which is the central legislature for India? The answer is the Parliament. Okay, sometimes some students fail to answer this question, but you have to remember that the central legislature, when you say central legislature, actually we mean the Parliament. Now we shall find out the composition of the Indian Parliament, which is a very important question for you. Composition of the Indian Parliament. Composition of the Parliament. So how is the Indian Parliament composed of? The first thing is that it is the overall administrative power goes to the President. President is at the highest position. President is at the highest position in the Parliament. He is also called the highest executive. The highest executive of our country, of course, the President. But we have to remember that there is some ambiguity, that if the President is there, then why again the Prime Minister? Or if the Prime Minister is there, then why again the President? Yes, in parliamentary system, two executives are there. Basically, two executives are there. One is called the titular executive or the nominal executive, another is called the real executive. You see, though the President is called the highest executive, but the President is not directly elected by the people. He is indirectly elected by the people. The people's representatives, the MLAs and the MPs elect the President. Okay, so President is indirectly elected in the parliamentary system, so he is called the nominal or the titular executive, whereas the Prime Minister is directly elected by the people. Whenever there is general election or the parliamentary election, the Prime Minister is directly elected by means of universal adult franchise. So that's why Prime Minister is called the real executive in the parliamentary system. And so the composition, in the composition of Parliament, we find that President is at the highest position. Then there are two houses, the upper house. the upper house, the other name is Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha, the upper house of the Indian Parliament is called Rajya Sabha, or it is also called the Council of States. You have to remember this name also, the Council of States. Council of States. In English it is called the Council of States. Now, who is the chairperson over there in Rajya Sabha? Of course, you know, the Vice President. Vice President is the chairperson in Rajya Sabha. Whenever there is any session of Rajya Sabha, it is headed by the Vice President. So, this one can be a short question for you. Okay, who presides over in the meetings of Rajya Sabha? Then what is the answer? The answer is Vice President. And how many members are there in Rajya Sabha? Of course, you know, in total there are 245 members in Rajya Sabha. In total there are 245 members in Rajya Sabha. So, that is the total strength of Rajya Sabha. This one also can be a short question for you. You can write down that what is the total strength of Rajya Sabha. The total strength of Rajya Sabha is 245. Out of this 245, this is the total strength. Out of this 245, 233 members are actually elected, indirectly elected by the people. Okay, 233 members are elected and 12 members are nominated by the President. 12 members are nominated by the President. So, this composition we have to remember very carefully, that the total strength of Rajya Sabha is 245, out of which 233 members are indirectly elected by the people. Okay, means they are not directly elected by the people. There is no direct election for the members of Rajya Sabha. And we have to remember that the tenure of Rajya Sabha is also different than the Lok Sabha. The tenure of Rajya Sabha is 6 years, and after every 2 years, 1/3 of the members go for retirement. Okay? So, for every elected member in Rajya Sabha actually serves over there for 6 years. Okay? One individual member, and after every second year, after every 2 years, 1/3 of the members go for retirement, and that's why Rajya Sabha is never dissolved at a time. So, the elections are held only for the vacant seats. As we know that after every second year, 1/3 of the members go for retirement, so that much vacancy is created. So, to fill up those vacant seats, only elections held for Rajya Sabha. Okay? So, you have to remember that Rajya Sabha is also called a permanent house. It is never dissolved at a time. This one also can be a question for you, that why Rajya Sabha is called a permanent member, permanent house here. Okay? So, if we look at the total composition of the Rajya Sabha, that is, it is the upper house of the Indian Parliament, and it is also called the Council of States. It is presided over by the Vice President of India, and the total number of membership in Rajya Sabha is 245. Out of these 245 members, how many are elected? The number of elected members is 233. 233 members are actually elected, and they are not directly elected by the people, they are indirectly elected by the people. Then the remaining 12 members, 245 minus 233, so how many? 12. 12 members are nominated by the President of India. Now, how President nominates these 12 members? Who are these people actually? Is there any speciality? Yes, of course. Not just any and every person is nominated by the President. These people, these 12 people, those who are nominated by the President, they are efficient in their field. Maybe a great sports personality, or very famous in the world of music, or a journalist, or a scientist, whatever it is. Okay? So, those personalities, those who are very eminent in the nation, very popular in the nation, and they are renowned for their activities. They have done the best achievement say for example Sachin Tendulkar, he was also the member of Rajya Sabha once, okay, because he has contributed a lot for the development of cricket in India. So he was the member of Rajya Sabha for a term. So that way, the persons, those who are nominated by the president, they are actually much efficient, very much renowned in the nation. So those 12 personalities from various fields are being nominated by the president in the Rajya Sabha. So that is the composition of Rajya Sabha. Now we shall find out the composition of Lok Sabha. That is the lower house. It is called the lower house of the Indian Parliament, the Lok Sabha. In English it is called the House of People. The House of People. Okay, you see the same legacy, the same system followed here also. The British Parliament is also composed of the House of Lords and House of Commons. So that way, similarly, in similar way, our upper house and the lower house, okay, like House of Commons and the House of People, Lok Sabha. So that way, there is one similarity is found here. So that is the second chamber of the Parliament, the lower house, the Lok Sabha, the House of the People, whatever you call. Okay, the total number of members is 545. The total strength of Rajya Sabha, the total strength of Lok Sabha is 545. There are 545 members in Lok Sabha. Out of this 545, 543 are actually elected. 543 members are elected directly by means of universal adult franchisee from the whole nation. You know that the total country is divided into 543 constituencies, electoral constituencies. From each constituency, one member is elected by means of majority vote. So they are the members of Lok Sabha. They are also called MP, member of the Parliament. Okay. Now remaining two members, 543 minus 545 total members. Out of that, 543 are elected and remaining two, they are nominated. They are nominated. Two members are nominated by the president from Anglo-Indian community if he thinks that there is not enough representation from that community particularly. So that way the Lok Sabha is composed of. And who is the head of Lok Sabha? Of course, the speaker. The speaker. The speaker presides over the sessions of Lok Sabha. So that way the Lok Sabha is composed of, and we must remember that the tenure of Lok Sabha is 5 years. So that is the difference here we have to remember. The tenure of Rajya Sabha is 6 years, and after every 2 years, 1/3 of the members go for retirement, whereas the term for Lok Sabha is 5 years. And after every 5 years, the Lok Sabha is dissolved. New elections are held and all the members are newly elected here. We have to remember this. So that way the composition of the Indian Parliament is done. Okay. So let us give an overall look on the composition of the Indian Parliament. So at the top position, the highest executive of our country is the President, and there are two houses, the upper house, it is also called Rajya Sabha, and in English it is called the Council of States, which is headed by the Vice President of India. On the other hand, there is Lok Sabha, the lower house of the Parliament. It is also called the House of the People, where there is 545 members in total. Out of those 545 members, 543 are directly elected by means of universal adult franchisee. So whenever there is general election in the country, the 543 members are elected. Now the political party which has got the majority number of seats out of this 543, so that is the number is 272 actually. If 272 seats are owned by any particular political party, they will be called by the leader of that political party, will be called by the president to form the government, to run the administration. So that way the activities of the Lok Sabha continues. okay, and the remaining 2 members are nominated by the President. So, in short we can say this is the composition of the Indian Parliament. This one can be a question also for you, okay. Write a short note on the composition of the Indian Parliament, and from this only you can make many short questions, many 1 mark questions, okay, BSA type, very short answer type, or MCQ type questions you can prepare from here, okay, from the composition of the Indian Parliament, okay. Now we shall see the major part of this chapter, that is the functions of the Indian Parliament, okay. As the title of the chapter you have seen, why do we need the Parliament? Of course we need the Parliament for some reasons, some basic important reasons. The 3 reasons are discussed in our book, okay. So what are these 3 reasons that why do we need the Parliament? Let us find out. Functions of the Indian Parliament. Functions of the Parliament. So what are the important functions? Number 1, to select the national government. To select the national government. The second important function is that we shall discuss in detail each and every one. Let us find out first the major ones. To select the national government, the second important function is to control, guide and inform the government. And third is making laws. Making laws. Though we are putting making laws in the third position, but actually making laws is one of the most important functions of the Indian Parliament. So don't worry for the numbers. These are the major 3 functions of the Indian Parliament. Now let us see one by one. Let us see one by one. The first one is to select the national government. What do we actually want to mean by this? To select the national government. How the national government is selected by the Parliament? So the first important responsibility is to divide the country into political constituencies. The country is divided into political constituencies. Into various political constituencies, the country is divided. For Lok Sabha election, when we call it parliamentary election, actually we mean the Lok Sabha election. So for that purpose, our country is divided into 543 constituencies. That in total 543 constituencies are there in our country, dispersed in various states, and from these political constituencies, one member belong to one particular political party is considered as the winner by means of majority vote, and the political party which will get the majority number of votes, of course majority number of seats, their leader will be called by the President to form the government and to run the administration. So out of these 543, one political party should get 272 seats. 272 seats means more than half. So if a single political party gets 272 seats out of 543 seats, that political party will be considered as the majority party. And that majority party, the majority party's leader actually will be called by the President of India to form the government and to run the administration. Now, leader of that majority party will be considered as the Prime Minister. Leader of the majority party, is considered as the PM, the Prime Minister. And of course, the Prime Minister alone cannot run the administration of such a vast country. Then what he does? He distributes the portfolios to different ministers. There can be health minister, education minister, finance minister. So like that, various portfolios are there, various departments are there, and for which he selects his friends, he selects the members of the ministry. Okay, so Prime Minister with the other ministers form the government and they run the administration. So that way the first function, that is to select the national government, continues here. Okay. We must remember that suppose a single political party doesn't get 272 seats, then what will happen? How the government will form? Of course, in a democracy, the government must be formed by the majority party. Majority number of seats out of 543, majority number of seats should be owned by a particular political party. But it may happen that, actually it happened in our country several times, that a single political party did not win 272 seats. So in that situation, what to do? Yes, the solution is coalition government. It is called coalition government. What is coalition government? We have to know what is coalition government. So whenever a single political party doesn't win 272 seats, the minimum of 272 seats, there will be, the government will be formed by the coalition system. The president will call the leaders of the various political parties to form the coalition. Okay, a group which will form either 272 or more than that. The political parties leaders will form a group, will form the coalition who will maintain this number 272 or more than that. So this is the magic number for our country, 272. You have to remember it. So the political parties leaders of, okay, various political parties leaders, they come forward, they form the coalition and they approach the president to form the government and to run the administration. So that way the coalition government is formed. So this is the solution when no single political party gets the majority number of seats in our country. Okay, and of course we have to remember that the executive here, okay, in the parliament, the leaders, those who are elected members, they are also called the executive body here. The highest executives are there, the president is there, the leader of the majority party, prime minister is there, the other ministers are there. So that executive body forms the government and they run the administration. So that is the way of to select the national government. That is the first function of the parliament. Now let us see the second important function of the Indian parliament. What is the second important function of the Indian parliament? Is to control, guide and to inform the government. To inform the government. How it is done? How does the parliament controls the government? Actually, there are various parliamentary procedures. Say for example, question hour. One of the most important parliamentary session is question hour. You have to remember it. Question hour. What is this question hour? Question hour is the session when the government, the representative of the government are asked question on various issues. So for example, government has got certain plannings, certain future activities, and if those are not done properly, then of course in the question hour the representative from the government side will be asked some questions. Got the point? So this question hour is a very important portion of the parliamentary session, and there are various other sessions also. Okay, that adjournment motion, okay, various other motions are there. Okay, so that way the parliament controls the governmental activities. Then guide. How does the parliament guides the government? See, the representatives, those who are there in the parliament, they represent their region, a particular constituency from which the representative has gone to the parliament. He knows the best about his constituency. What are the shortcomings? What are the drawbacks over there? Okay, say for example, in a particular constituency, there is no proper communication system. The road transportation is not good over there, or there may be shortage of drinking water, or people are not having enough livelihood means. Okay, there is not enough job opportunities. So that particular representative from a particular constituency will represent his problems in the parliament, and about that there will be discussion. There will be overall discussions in the parliament about the problem of a particular constituency, and accordingly the decisions will be taken in the parliament and the problems will be solved. That way a particular constituency's representative can guide. So accordingly all the members of the parliament guide the government. Okay. Then another important function is here to inform the government. Inform the government. The representatives in the parliament, as they belong to different sections of the society, different parts of the country, so they provide various informations. Whenever the governmental activities are running or the government is planning for the future activities, so they of course decide, they just arrange them in the sequential order, which one to be done first. Suppose in a constituency where there is health facilities are not there properly, okay, or communication system is not there, okay, the proper communication system is absent over there. So they have to set them in sequential order, which has to be done first. If the problem of if there is acute shortage of water in a particular place, then that problem to be solved first, then the rest, that way. Okay. So this way the orders, this way the sequential order is arranged. The work activities are done this way. So the representatives in the parliament, the MPs, inform the government about various shortcomings of various regions, and those are discussed, and accordingly the government has to plan. You know that every year the planning is done for the future activities of the government. Okay. Presently it is called Niti Aayog. Okay. Earlier it was called the Planning Commission of India. Now it is called Niti Aayog. So this body also directly involved with the parliament, and they discuss about the various shortcomings of the various regions, and they try to solve those problems. So that way the parliament control, guide and inform the government. The third important function, now we shall see the third important function of the parliament, we shall find out now, that is law making. The third important function of the government is law making. Okay. Law making function. Actually the parliament is the central legislature. So what is the function of the legislature? Of course making laws. For every state there is legislative assembly or legislative council. What is the function of a legislative assembly or legislative council? It is the same, making laws. So accordingly the parliament, the central legislature, is there to make laws. Now how this law making is done in the parliament? Actually in the later chapter there is enough discussion. So in this chapter it is not much discussed here, but in short we can say something about this law making, that before making a law, it is presented as a bill in either of the houses. Means either in the Rajya Sabha or in the Lok Sabha. A bill is represented by a minister in either of the houses, either in upper house or in the lower house. But you have to remember that money bill can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha. Money bill cannot be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. Okay. So that way the bills are also two types. Actually, one is called ordinary bill and the other is called money bill. So whatever it is, the bills can be introduced in either of the houses except the money bill. As I said, money bill can be introduced only in the lower house of the Indian Parliament, that is Lok Sabha. So it is introduced as a bill to either of the houses. Then suppose the bill is introduced in Rajya Sabha, then there will be discussion. Okay. So we have to write here that introduction of the bill in either of the houses. So it is introduced as a bill. Now there will be discussion. There will be discussion on that particular bill. in that house where it is discussed, okay, where it is approached, tabled. So after the discussion, there will be voting. Suppose the bill is introduced in Rajya Sabha, then there will be discussion in detail. There will be first reading, second reading, third reading, various steps are there, various initiatives are there, okay, about a particular bill. So it is discussed over there in that particular house. Then the members will cast vote either in favor of the bill or against the bill. There will be voting, okay. So after voting, if the bill is passed in that particular house where it was raised, it will go to the other house. If it is raised in the Rajya Sabha first, then it will go to the Lok Sabha or vice versa. So after passing the bill in Rajya Sabha, it will go to the Lok Sabha. Again there will be detailed discussion. Now the previous house where it was raised, they can include certain suggestions or modifications to the bill, okay, and it will go to the Lok Sabha. There will be further discussion on this. They also may discuss and modify certain part of the bill, whatever it is possible over there. So after voting is conducted on that bill in the second house, it will go to the president. So if the majority number of members in both the houses cast vote in favor of the bill, then of course it is considered as the bill is passed and it will go to the president for his consent. The president may send back the bill to the particular house from where it is sent to him for reconsideration, okay, for if there is any drawbacks, if there is any shortcomings and all, for checking those, okay. But when it is sent again after 14 days to the president, of course he is bound to put his signature over there and that bill turns into an act. It becomes a law and it will be included in the Indian Constitution. So that way the law making procedure is done in our country, okay. So this is the three important functions of the Indian Parliament. What are the three important functions of the Indian Parliament we have found? That is, first, to select the national government, and for that the country is divided into electoral constituencies. From each constituency the representatives are elected and the majority party, the majority number of seats, the political party which has got the majority number of seats will form the government. So that way the national government is selected. The second important function of the parliament is to inform, to guide and to control the government through various parliamentary sessions. As you have seen, the question hour, one important, the session starts with the question hour. In the parliament the session starts with the question hour, and through question hour the government is controlled, guided by the parliament. And another important function we have seen of the Indian Parliament, that is law making function. Of course in the later chapters there will be discussion, detailed discussion of law making, no doubt, but in general we have found the three important functions of the Indian Parliament. Now we shall find out who are the members in the Parliament. Of course we know that from various constituencies members are being elected by means of majority vote, okay. Now who are the people in the Parliament? Who are the people there in the Parliament? Of course they are the representatives from the nation from different backgrounds, representatives from different backgrounds. Representatives from different backgrounds are there, okay. They are the representatives from rural areas as well as urban areas. The people are also there from the Dalit and backward communities to talk about their shortcomings, problems, okay. The SC/ST communities, there is reservation of seats from the ST/SC communities. There is women's representation in the parliament, from women also, okay, there is enough representation, but actually the women representation in the parliament should be increased more. That is suggested by various organizations. So we find that representative from various backgrounds, okay, various social backgrounds, economic backgrounds, the people are there. So that makes it more democratic, because the backward communities, SC/ST communities, and the representative from women section make it more of diverse nature. So that is the parliament's representation, we can say. Okay. So from this discussion, let us frame some questions along with the answers. So the first question I want to place here, that which is the central legislature, the first question you can write, which is the central legislature of India. You can write down this one as the first question, which is the central legislature of India. Which is the central legislature of India. So what will be the answer? The answer is the parliament. Answer is the parliament. The second question, how many members are there? How many members are there in the upper house? Upper house of the Indian parliament. Of course, you know, there are 245 members. In total, there are 245 members in the Indian upper house of the Indian parliament. Then out of these, how many members are indirectly elected by the people? This one also can be a question. How many members are? How many members are? I am just setting some sample questions here. You can make many more questions similar to this. Okay. How many members are? How many members are nominated by the president in the Rajya Sabha? Of course, you know, 12 members. 12 members are nominated by the president in Rajya Sabha. Then how many members are elected, indirectly elected of course, in Rajya Sabha? That is 233 members. So if you have followed the discussion, you yourself can make many short questions and broad questions from here. So how many members are there in Lok Sabha? The answer is 45. Total number of, total strength. The question can be asked other way, that what is the total strength of Lok Sabha? The answer is 545. How many members are directly elected in Lok Sabha? The answer is 543. How many members are nominated by the president in the Lok Sabha? Answer is 2. So that way you can make many short questions from here and some broad questions from this chapter. Say for example, write a short note of the on the composition of the Indian parliament. So you will write about the president, you will write about the composition of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, who is the president over in Rajya Sabha. Okay, who presides over Rajya Sabha? Vice president. Who presides over Lok Sabha? The speaker. So that way you can make many short and broad questions from here. Okay. Then of course one of the most important question from this chapter is write in brief about the function of the Indian parliament. Those three functions that we have discussed, you will write here. What are those three important functions? That is to select the national government, to control, guide and inform the government, and the third is making laws. So these are the three important functions. You have to explain in detail if the question is carrying more marks, okay, 4, 5 like that, okay. So you have to explain it. So let us conclude here. Thank you for watching. Bye all of you.